Welcome to the Brutus Monroe channel, and Collins here. Today we're going to create this Easter card. Let's go with the products I used to create this card. I'm going to use the Blanket of Blooms stencil. This is a mixed media stencil. It's from our newest release. We have the Bunny Hug stamp set. This stamp set, it has a variety of images, but we're going to use this little fun lamb, the bunny ears, and a few of the blooms that are in here. And we're going to use the sentiment set that reads Spring Blessings. We're going to bring in some of 110-pound cardstock for our card base. And I went ahead and stamped our little lamb, the little bunny ears, and a few of the blooms ahead of time and fussy cut them because I do not have the coordinating dies for this, but there are coordinating dies for the stamp set. Okay, and I went ahead and cut these with my Copic markers and fussy cut them ahead of time. We're going to bring in our sentiment here, which I went ahead and stamped using some Versa Magic ink. And we're going to go ahead and bring in our glitter glaze and Periwinkle. So I have, like I said, a 110-pound card base. And this is a side folding card base. And I have two pieces of layering cardstock. I have this lighter green and this soft blue. Okay, we're going to use, that's the closest to my periwinkle that I had in my stash. We're going to use the green for our stenciling. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in our stencil. I'm going to move everything off to the side so we can get started on our project. So I'm going to bring in our stick and stamp mat to hold our stencil in place. I'm going to remove the protective layer. I'm going to put my green cardstock on here. I'm going to do it this landscape style. So we're going to place that on there. As you can see, it stays on because it's got a nice sticky firm adhesive on there. But it's repositionable adhesive, so you can take your cardstock off. Now it will hold your stencil in place, so no more magnets or tape or anything else because the mat does it for you. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and bring in my spatula so we can start putting our glitter glaze. I'm going to give it a quick stir. I just like to stir it. I think I just like to look at it while stirring it. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start spreading the glitter glaze through our stencil. And the reason why I picked the green cardstock is to kind of mimic the grass in the background, and all these little glittery blooms are going to be a part of our background for our scene today. I'm going to create a little quick scene with our little lamb. So I'm going to go ahead and put the glitter glaze all the way through. I'm just going to make sure I get some in there, get it all smooth. And I'm not putting a real thick layer, I'm putting a nice even thin layer. That way it dries faster. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and put my lid on my glitter glaze. I kept the protective little plastic that's inside. That keeps our glaze nice and moist. If you happen to throw yours out, of course use some press and seal. That gives you the same thing. I'm going to remove our stencil, and then I'm going to take any of the extra glitter glaze off with my palette knife really quickly. And then I'm just going to bend my stick and stamp mat just a little bit so I can stick my palette knife just behind my cardstock here, and then I just keep pulling back on my mat, not on my paper. That way it'll release without as minimal curling as possible. So I'm going to set that aside to dry, and I'm going to clean my mat. Just going to use some stamp cleaner here, some Brutus Monroe stamp cleaner. There is a matte cleaner. Unfortunately, I do not have it at the moment, but so I'm just using my stamp cleaner, and it works beautifully along with a clean piece of paper towel to clean off even the glitter glaze. And if some stays on there or ink gets on there, I'm not worried about it because it's a working surface. It's a mat to work and stamp on. Alright, so I'm going to quickly go rinse off my stencil and my palette knife. And while I was doing that, that gave my panel enough time to dry. So now I'm going to basically trim off about a 1/4 inch all the way around our panel here. So I'm going to get this down to 4 and then by 5 1/4 so that we have a nice little mat all around our panel here once we layer it onto the other cardstock. So I'm going to layer this onto the blue or periwinkle colored cardstock. I'm going to use some Barely Art glue to adhere our panels together. Just get a little bit of adhesive flowing on here. And then I'll adhere these two panels together, and then I'll adhere this card front panel onto our card base. And I just like to press it firmly from behind, just in case I have any adhesive stuck onto my fingers. I don't get it on my card front. You can do, like I said, the same thing and put some adhesive on this panel and adhere that to our card base. And I do the same thing. I flip it open, make sure it's all even, and put a little pressure on there on the inside. All right, so now we're going to bring in our little cute images here. This little lamb, he's so cute with his little smile. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and adhere his little bunny ears. There. And I gave those little bunny ears a slight curl towards the top. And I'm going to use some adhesive tabs on the back of our little lamb here. And I'm going to pop him up and place him here in the center. And then I'll just put all the little other blooms all around him. Putting the taller ones towards the end and the shorter ones all around, except for this little pink tulip. I want to have it next to him, almost like he's sniffing the tulips. Okay, so I'm going to rearrange this a little bit. I'm going to remove the adhesive backing from our little lamb and put him down here on the center. And then on some of the blooms, I will put some adhesive foam tape on the back of them, just to give them a little texture, a little height on them. So I did it to I just did it to the tulip. The other blooms, I just adhere straight to the card panel. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that on there. So then on the tulip, just on the bulb part, I put a little foam tab on there. The rest of it, I just adhere with the liquid adhesive straight to the card. And I put that closest to the little lamb. And then I'll bring in my last bloom here and adhere that. So it's just like he's walking through all these cute little blooms. So I'm going to go ahead now and adhere the sentiment on a piece of the same blue cardstock that we have here, the same layering piece. And I have cut my sentiment in a slant, and I stamped that on the rest of the Perfect Blend alcohol marker cardstock, which is what I use to stamp my images and color them. I forgot to mention that, so I want to make sure I mention that now. And now I'm going to put some foam adhesive behind our sentiment so that I can place it on the top left-hand corner. And I'll have everything listed that I used in the description box below for you with links so that you can easily head to the shop and pick up all these wonderful products. So now I'm going to go ahead and bring in some sequins. Now these sequins are from the Mother's Day box, inspiration box. I still had some left over, and I love the teal in here, and the pinks and purples match perfectly with the colors that I'm using in this card. So I decided to use these instead of the Bunny Hugs sequin mix. That's the great thing about Brutus Monroe products. They can easily interchange and they coordinate beautifully. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and add some sequins and mixed in some sequins along the blooms on the bottom edge here by the lamb, and then a few over by the sentiment. And I don't want to put too much on this card, being that we have all that beautiful glitter texture in the background, but just a little finishing touches. So I'm going to just, one more right here, actually two more, and then we should be complete. Alright, so here's a close-up of my card. If my camera will focus, it's the glitter, it kind of throws it off a bit. Okay, so there it is. You have all that beautiful texture and glitter in the background, our raised images, and this lamb with his little cute bunny ears. I just think he's so adorable. So again, let's go over the products I used. We used our stick and stamp mat, which makes everything so much easier. Our bunny hug stamp set. We used the lamb and some of the florals and our sentiment. The blanket of blooms stencil, and the Periwinkle glitter glaze. So like I said, everything will be in the description box below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope you found some inspiration.